Hey guys. Yeah, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. I know it has been a busy day. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about the hearings yesterday uh, and our impressions of uh, the governor's tax plan. I think most of you guys probably watched the hearings yesterday on the Gene Forte tax plan. We heard three bills in House tax, and overall, again, unimpressed with the fact that the governor's plan overwhelmingly favors wealthy corporations and wealthy individuals in the state and isn't designed to target working class or middle class Montanans in any way. Um, again, Senator Hertz didn't pretend like it was going to actually directly impact middle class Montanans, and in fact, went into some detail about his faith in a trickle down. So we think that there's a better way to spend what is probably over $130 million in the out years here. We think that if we're going to be spending that kind of money, some of it should go to middle class families, some of it should go to working class people in the state of Montana. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Representative Kurt Carpenter, who's going to talk about the bill she's going to drop in today.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. And thanks for jumping on, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces. So I'm excited to be officially reintroducing the Earned Income Tax Credit legislation. I actually just picked it up today, so I'll be dropping it in the hopper later today or early tomorrow. And it basically just expands the state income tax credit to 10%. It's currently at 3%. It would go to 10%. And that effectively puts about $12 million back in the pockets of families and local communities to recirculate and grow our economy. I was pretty disappointed that we didn't see any movement on House Bill 424, which I introduced right before transmittal. But that we think that one of the biggest barriers for that was for our Republican colleagues was the expanding the income tax brackets at the top end of the income tax brackets. So we cut that out, and now it's just a clean earned income tax credit bill. And I'm hoping that we can get some good traction on this. It's a bipartisan issue. We've had some really good conversations with our friends across the aisle. And I hope that we can get it across the finish line. And I'm also happy to take any questions.
Cool. So if folks have questions, go ahead and raise their hand. Cool. Seeing Aaron, then Eric, and then Dennis, and it looks like you got a question.
Yeah, hey, Representative and Minority Leader, thanks for doing this. I guess just kind of the obvious question in the scope of those conversations that you've had with Republicans, do you have the sense that this sort of revision to your original bill is going to get adequate support or actually go to the floor this time?
Yeah, that's a good question, Aaron. I mean, I think that we want earned income tax credit, targeted tax relief for middle class families, working class families to be part of the conversation down the stretch. I think Emma's right that all of the opposition at the hearing in tax was around the top tax bracket. There wasn't opposition raised that I heard anyway about the earned income tax credit. So whether it gets out of tax committee or whether we're looking at introducing it into the final conversations around tax relief in the budget down the stretch, I'm not sure. But I do think that there is bipartisan energy around this. And I don't know, Emma, if you have anything to add.
No, I think that's a really good point. I think the biggest stumbling block seemed to be that piece about expanding the tax brackets. And I think, I kind of knew that going into the hearing that would be something that my Republican colleagues and wouldn't be able to get behind. So I'm excited that we're able to offer this as an alternative. I think everybody wants to put more money in the pockets of our constituents. We all understand that these are unprecedented times and people are really hurting. And so this is a way that we can really help our communities.
And I also have a question about the trigger bill, but we can save that for the end if you want to come back to me.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. We'll circle back. Eric.
Yeah, so a couple things, some of which I can wait on, but I wanted to ask Representative Abbott about the $130 million figure. Where is that? How are you getting at that is a number for the overall impact of the June 4th day tax package?
Yeah, Eric, good question. That's just adding up the fiscal notes. So it's
Which bills?
it would be the business equipment, the 159, the income tax
Yeah.
cut, and 184, no, 184, 182. And then I didn't include the one that's stuck in Senate tax. Nathan, did we include the one that was stuck in Senate tax that has a positive?
I don't believe so. Eric, I'll get back to you. This was adding up fiscal notes on the June 4th tax bills last I checked.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just asking, that number sounds high to me based on my efforts to add up those 2 or 3 bills, but I might have missed something. So
yeah, I'll run
Cool.
back with you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. And I'll let other people go.
Cool. Mike.
So what are you going to say, this is for either one of you, what are you going to say if someone says, okay, well, we just passed this federal stimulus tax bill. It has huge expansion of tax credits for children. And also, isn't there some EIT in that as well? And if I'm arguing against this, I'd say, well, we've already got this huge federal benefit. Why do we need additional stuff that's going to impact our budget?
So I don't think that the most recent stimulus bill included earned income tax credit. It did include an expansion of the child tax credit. That's great. What we're trying to do here is make sure that we're targeting our tax relief at working class and middle class families in Montana.
And I would also say that this is an excellent time to be introducing this because it just builds on the efforts of what's happening on the federal level. And so let's increase our impact at a time when people really need it.
Iris.
Thanks. Yeah, my question is, how does this effort sort of jive with the Republican tax efforts? Do you see this as replacing any particular measures or going alongside everything that they're promoting? How does it sort of add up?
Well, it hits a different group of Montanans, for sure. It hits folks that are working class and middle class, you know, and right. I think the earned income tax credit. I think if you make around 45,000 a year with and have 2 kids in your household, that's about where our targeted relief starts, and it goes down from there. So it's a really different focus than the governor's tax plan, which you know, I've talked to all you guys before about it, but about 80% of the benefit goes to the top 20% of households in terms of wealth. And, you know, the wealthiest Montanans would get about $1,500 a year back. And the median household income would get about $12. So this is just a different focus, Iris. You know, it's a different group of people that we're targeting relief at.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you think that it can happen simultaneously, just given the impact on the budget, those kinds of tax cuts across the board?
Yeah, so this one costs about $12 million a year. Is it a year, Nathan, or is it over the biennium? Just since I already got something wrong with Eric.
That's per year.
Okay, so $12 million a year.
The fiscal note on 424.
And you know, we think that we think earned income tax credit and that kind of relief, that focused relief, should be part of the conversation down the stretch here. You know, House Bill 159 is $30 million. And you know, again, that's focused at the folks that don't need the help. And we think that, you know, $12 million back into the pockets of families and communities across the state should be part of this conversation down the stretch. And I think it can happen simultaneously. I don't know, Emma, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think the only other thing is that we, in 424, we had some ideas for how to pay for this, and those were pretty roundly rejected. So at this point, I think we're kind of, we're open to ideas, you know, and I'm excited to see what folks come up with when we present this bill, and when it moves into the appropriations process, what we come up with. Because I think this is really important, and you know the economic benefits of this across the board are going to be pretty important.
Let's go to Sam and then Kevin.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I was curious where the $12 million figure came from, and is there a fiscal note out for that, or do you expect there will be any difference in the fiscal note when that does come out?
We expect it to be, it's the same policy that was included in the first bill that Representative Kirk Carpenter introduced. And so we expect it to be the same, although there's not a fiscal note yet.
Thanks for holding this call. Any idea when this bill might get a committee hearing?
I would expect sometime next week would be that's kind of my intuition about how things are moving in this building right now.
I think we loop back to Aaron and then back to Aaron. Eric.
You're muted, Aaron.
Aaron, you're muted.
Sorry. On a slightly unrelated subject, I don't know how closely you guys have been following the amendments to, I guess, 182 is at the trigger bill. But I'm curious if you have any insight, because this came up in the hearing yesterday on, obviously I know you think it's a bad bill regardless, but the unmooring, I guess, of like the reversion figure from the CAGR and basing it basically on like, you know, whatever Lou Jones thinks that the revenue is going to be in a couple of years. Just kind of taking away some of those additional sideboards. I'm curious if you think that that makes it worse, or if you just have any kind of general thoughts on some of the amendments that were done in the Senate that are now that are materializing on the House side.
To be clear, are you talking about the amendments that posted for executive action tomorrow on the House side?
The amendments that are already on the bill.
That are already on?
Yeah.
By and large, I felt like the amendments made the bill worse. It's a complicated mechanism to begin with, and I think that the HJ2 addition only complicates it more. But you're right that I think it's a bad concept out of the gate. So nipping around the edges of it just in general isn't gonna change my thoughts on the concept. I think it's a pretty dangerous way to do fiscal policy in the state. And I agree with the Montana Budget and Policy Center that this really is a budget bill. And I feel like it was in the wrong committee, I think. I think it should have been over with Emma, but.
Eric.
Okay, so this is a little bit afield from the conversation today, and feel free to tell me you want to talk about it later. But in terms of looking at the federal stimulus money that's going to be coming to the state and routed through the appropriations process in the next few months, next few weeks, where are you at currently in terms of thinking about what you want to see happen with that?
Emma, do you have immediate thoughts on that? That's more your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few areas. I don't know if everybody knows kind of the process that's going to happen with that. We're going to be splitting into our subcommittees and dealing with it in our subcommittees, which makes a lot of sense. It's a lot of money. And so I think, you know, I can't really speak right now to what's happening in all the other subcommittees. I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting ideas coming out of the subcommittees in terms of kind of, I could see it being used for a lot of like one-time only infrastructure types of things. There might be some programmatic things that we can do with it, but I think there's a lot of appetite to do some really fun, really cool things with that money.
So that's a stay tuned.
Yeah.
Anything else from anyone?
Oh, yeah, since somebody's cut it yet, that back to the trigger bill amendments, there's an amendment, I think, put on the Senate side that that goes and tweaks the 1711-140, one of those numbers, at least strong language, that would shield, I think, portions of the Health and Human Service budget from automatic cuts under that, like on that other trigger language. And how are you guys feeling about that?
Yeah, so 177140, the change to that was to protect specific community services programs under the Department of Health and Human Services. And I mean, I'm pretty sure, if I understood Senator Hertz correctly, it sounds like they were hoping to get that off again, because they felt like it tied the administration's hands a little bit too much. If we triggered, it took too much off the table. I haven't considered it fully, so I'd have to get back to you on it. I think that obviously, when we trigger in 177140, we do need the executive to be able to go in and make some of those cuts to keep us above where we need to be in terms of end fund. So you want to make sure that he actually has the ability to do that. So I would worry if pulling out that Department of Public Health and Human Services programmatic programs as an option would actually handcuff the executive. That would be a problem from my point of view. But I haven't looked into it enough to say. And it does sound like we're going to see an amendment to pull that off. So I guess that's a stay tuned, but not for very long. We're doing it tomorrow. So we're moving it fast.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay,
Cool. Well, I think we can wrap this. Appreciate everyone jumping on, and everyone have a great rest of your Thursday.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thanks you guys.
okay, yeah, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.